In today's video, I'm going to answer the question that I get quite often about why certain thoughts manifest and others don't. And I'm going to reveal to you the truth about your thoughts, the role that they play in terms of manifestation and conscious creation, and what you should do with them. Welcome to my channel. This is where we cultivate consciousness. My name is Denise. I am a consciousness mindset coach, and if you would like to work with me, there is a link to the description of this video. I'd like to thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys for all your comments, and especially because it really does help contribute to the content. Thank you for subscribing, sharing, and liking, and helping me grow the channel. So today we're talking about thoughts and the role that they play in terms of manifestation and conscious creation and whether or not they're powerful. I get a lot of questions. Well, it's the same question, really. Why do some of my thoughts manifest and others seem to not, or they take forever? And some thoughts that I barely have or put any effort into, just thought something one time and it showed up. A lot of people find this confusing. And then there's also the idea that you're told over and over again that your thoughts create, mind your thoughts, practice the mental diet. And then on the other hand, you're told your thoughts don't matter, they have no power. And so there's a lot of confusion around here. I've tried to always be very clear about my stance on this and my opinion on this, but I don't know that I've done an entire video on it. So we're doing that today. So in terms of why some thoughts manifest and others don't, is really the answer to that is because is the root of the role your thoughts play in terms of your reality, your 3D, what you're creating for yourself. And it's not that some thoughts don't manifest simply because you didn't think them enough, or you aren't worthy of that, or you don't get to have that. And it's not that other thoughts do manifest because it was meant for you and it was just supposed to be what happened and it was fate. It is simply that the thoughts that manifest for you, it has nothing to do with the thought itself. What it has to do with is whether or not that thought aligns with your state of being. So the thoughts themselves do not have power in terms of manifesting reality. However, the thoughts are absolutely important, and they are a bridge between your state of being and what we call our 3D physical reality. So while there is no separation and it all is just one consciousness, one now moment, we are in an experience that seems separate from that. And so we have what we call our 3D reality. And like I said, the thoughts bridge the 3D reality and the state of being, which means your thoughts are a tool. They're a tool that you can use, and they're also revealing. So your thoughts in and of themselves do not manifest. They are a manifestation, but they are a manifestation of your state of being. And so when you're practicing deliberate thoughts that don't match up to a state of being that you're embodying, that's how you become that state of being. That's how you're stepping into that state of being, is by deliberately practicing the thoughts that state of being would embody. So this is why it's so important to absolutely take care of your mental diet. Now, you don't have to be afraid of your negative thoughts. And in fact, you really don't have to be afraid of anything because we are eternal. But I know sometimes things are scary. Trust me, I know. However, you do want to take care of them and monitor them, just mostly because of how good it feels to think better thoughts, right? It never feels good to be in a state of anxiety or to have these, as many people call them, intrusive negative thoughts that seem to be taking over. Even if you're manifesting all the things you desire, the bridge to that or the path to that is, an existence of fear or anxiousness or discomfort or worry. And I don't want that for any of you. So absolutely pay attention to your thoughts. Absolutely practice thinking new thoughts, not because your thoughts have power, but because they're an indicator to your state of being, and they're a tool into a desired state of being. So that's really what it comes down to. They cannot manifest in and of themselves, but the reason some thoughts manifest and others don't is because the thoughts that manifest, if you're seeing something come into your reality, it simply means that the state of being that you are embodying agrees with that. It really comes down to that. Or even furthermore, the state of being that you're embodying doesn't disagree with it. isn't resisting it, right? And so that's all it is. And then the thoughts that don't manifest, same thing. That state of being in that now moment does not agree with that. So it's not able to let that desire in, or whatever the thought is. It may not be something you desire, but you may notice, hey, I've had tons of negative thoughts of things that didn't happen. I have too. But that's what's going on there, is that even if you're having negative thoughts about something happening, fearful thoughts or negative thoughts, it doesn't automatically mean that's going to occur in your 3D. And I've had millions that don't. And the reason is because those thoughts don't line up. They don't match. They don't reflect. They don't represent the state of being. And it's always state of being that manifests. So use your thoughts as a tool. Pay attention to your mental diet. Don't panic and be afraid about it or of it. Don't think you have to flip every thought and thoughts are the way you manifest, because again, that's not true. However, thoughts are a really powerful tool for you, and they are an indicator, and it just feels better to think better. So, and it's also an exercise in consciousness, right? When I think about for myself, the version of me that had like really extreme negative thinking, always worst case scenario. In fact, my boyfriend years ago used to like say that, like, you should start saying best case scenario, because it was like the joke that I always thought of the worst case scenario. And I'm much better now. I still get into my moments of worrying or doubting or fearing. Totally normal, but I don't obsess over it. I usually talk it out, or I think it out, or I journal it out, and then I get through it, and then I get back on my business, and I start embodying the state, right? The preferred state, the preferred outcome. However, where was I even going with that? Now I'm off track. Oh, so when I think about, that version of me that had those debilitating thoughts, like, yeah, it was scary. And there was a period of time where I was very worried that all these thoughts are going to manifest. And if I keep thinking this, it's going to manifest and I'm going to experience it. And that almost made me more attracted to those thoughts. Like there was some weird pull where it was like, oh no, I can't. And what that is that's that resistance to it, right? When we're afraid of our thoughts, when we're in resistance to them, we're putting more effort on them, we're making them bigger. So we really want to neutralize this idea about thoughts and start understanding that like I said, they're a tool and they're working for you. Like you are in control of it ultimately, and you don't have to control everyone. And just practice, throughout your day, practice thinking better thoughts. Or even something that I used to do was I would recap in the evening, right? I would recap because we're busy throughout our days and we're doing things and we're just kind of in that consciousness state that's like, unconscious state, I guess, where it's the autopilot program is running. And so that's the point I was getting at earlier, actually. It's an exercise in consciousness to practice consciously new thoughts that feel better, new positive outcomes, new assumptions, new associations with what's happening in your 3D reality. So, but yeah, practice, what I used to do was in the evening, I would sort of like review my day and review who I was living from that day in regards to whatever was going on in my life. And then I would say, well, who would I have been, or how would I have been if I were this version? And I would just do it gently, where it wasn't like this forceful thing where I had to change all these thoughts or I had to start thinking this way, but I would implement gracefully, new ways of thinking, new perspectives. And I mean, this is how I still do that. Like I still do it that way, where again, something will come up and I'll talk it out, or I'll journal it out or meditate on it. And then I practice new aspects of it. And sometimes it, spans over hours in a day. Sometimes it spans over days or weeks, depending on what it is. And trying to not put myself in a place where I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough, or I'm feeling shame about it, or feeling like, I have to put my feet to the fire. And sometimes, yes, but also it's really just about your own personal development, how you want to start perceiving yourself in your reality, and how motivated are you to do that. And don't think that you have to meet a quota to have your desires fulfilled, because that's never the case. I think thoughts are very important. I think we should absolutely practice a mental diet. I know that thoughts don't create further in reality, but I know that when they align with a state of being, that shit manifests. It shows up. Like, it shows up. And when they don't, it won't show up. So that can also bring peace of mind because, like I said, I used to have a lot of intensely worrisome thoughts, about my children or myself or everything. And none of that stuff happened. It was like none of it happened. So, but again, like the moments where I was in those thoughts was very uncomfortable, and I don't want that for anybody. So we should all focus on thinking better, exercising your consciousness, starting to perceive yourself, your reality, everybody that's in your 3D from the highest version of themselves, because that's what this is all about. So there's my video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. Bye.